Hello, everyone. Welcome to a sleep-deprived episode of Gothic Gardening. I'm your host, a shambling husk of a person who hasn't gotten more than 4 hours of sleep per night in 3 months. If you're watching this video in the far-flung future, let's say 2030, give or take, first off, congratulations on surviving the apocalypse. How are things? I'm sure they're awful, but, they might get better. For context, in case you're wondering why I said that I haven't slept in 3 months, this is being filmed in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. That was a very long intro. That's possibly the longest intro I've done yet. Today, we're going to be talking about parasites. Yeah! A parasite is an organism that feeds on the fruits of other organisms. Basically, something produces a thing, and then the parasite comes in and takes it. Now, while that definition certainly applies to the capitalist worker dynamic that currently exists in the year 2020, I won't get into that right now. Not here. This is a gardening show, not a political show. So we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about melon worms. The reason why I'm talking about melon worms is because that beautiful watermelon buddy that I showed you in the last video, the really sizable one, I was really hoping that he would do well. The melon ended up not doing well. Calcium deficiency that I discussed in the last video wasn't the only problem we were having with cucumbers and watermelons. Something kept getting in and burrowing into them and just eating them from the inside out. We haven't been able to harvest any cucumber since mid-June, give or take, and it was really vexing for us. Because it wasn't just the cucumbers themselves that were being eaten. The leaves and the stalks were being devoured as well. Plants that were perfectly healthy would 2 or 3 days later just wither into these yellow and dying husks. So the melon that I was extremely excited for, this morning I went and checked on it and there was a hole burrowed into the side. This time though, when I cut it open, the perpetrator was still there. So I hopped onto my Netscape browser and looked at DuckDuckGo and little typey to find out what exactly I was dealing with here. And it turns out the culprit's name is Lepidoptera crembidae. Look, I'm not a biologist. I majored in music. I'm getting into gardening and stuff, and I'm basically learning all this from scratch. So, again, everybody here is going to be learning things. We're going to learn together, and it's going to be a great experience. Except for you viewing this in the year 2030. Watch out behind you. There are cannibal raiders. You probably should protect yourself. So, the melon worm basically is a type of moth whenever it's actually full grown. The worm itself is when it's at the caterpillar stage. And the moth will come and it will lay its eggs on the underside of leaves where it's protected from rain and the elements and whatnot. And then it hatches and the little worm just... But its preferred food isn't cucumber, which is what's mostly laid on. The name of it, the cucurbits. Cucurbits? Cucurbits? We're going to say cucurbits. So anyway, its preferred, plant grouping that it likes to eat is cucurbits, which include, which include cucumbers, gherkin, and cantaloupe, which they're attacked, but those aren't the preferred ones it likes to eat. The ones it loves, but it's more rare for it to get into, is apparently watermelon. Lucky me. I won the lottery. So they live in the south part of Florida. And apparently, every year, they migrate up from South Florida. They reach North Florida around mid-June, which is exactly when we started having this problem, as they're laying their eggs and whatnot, and then they do their thing. But come winter, there's always frost up here, and that kills them off. So we don't immediately have the problem again at the start of next season. But it is a yearly problem, apparently. I didn't know this, because I'm kind of new to the whole gardening thing. So, We're learning stuff today. You and I. We're learning tons of stuff. I'm learning about gardening and growing food and learning how to do that. And you, my venerable viewer from the year 2030, are learning that moths used to be a thing that existed before absolute climate collapse. So kudos, that's exciting. What's a moth look like? I could insert a picture here, but I'm going to leave it up to your imagination. So once I had diagnosed what the issue was, I started looking for ways of dealing with it. How am I going to kill these melon worms? Well, there's a lot of chemical insecticides that I could go with, like artificially made and all that. But I'm trying, whether or not this is going to actually work, I'm trying to do as much organic gardening as I can. It looks like one of the most effective ways of dealing with them is a protein that naturally occurs in soil, which has me kind of excited because if I can find the research on it, I may be able to cultivate this myself. But in lieu of that, I went online and checked a bunch of stores, and a bunch of stores locally apparently have it in stock. It's called
backless
it's sold at stores under the name BT, usually is how it's referred to, because, of course, that's how it's referred to. Nobody wants to try to say
Bacillus thuringiensis.
But it looks like one of the bonuses for BT is it doesn't only kill melon worms, but certain strains of it apparently are also effective against mosquitoes. Which, whew, I really hope I get the stuff that's effective against mosquitoes. Unlike the year 2030, mosquitoes are not the giant 20-foot wingspan beasts that carry off your children and your elderly and the weak, but they're actually really tiny insects right now that buzz around and spread various diseases like malaria and West Nile virus. And apparently my blood type is just chef's kiss for them. I am a walking buffet for mosquitoes, and boy, do they love chewing on me. I would actually show you my leg, like how badly it's been mosquito bit up right now. I've got a little bit of a spare tire around my middle, and I'm not sure I could gracefully hike my leg up for the camera for you to see it. And it's also something nobody really wants to see. Or do you? But yeah, that's been this episode of Gothic Gardening. If you're watching this in the year 2030, I want to A, congratulate you on surviving the multiple attacks that you've had to endure during the course of this video from various radioactive wildlife. And B, I'd like to advise you to wear a mask. You know, air quality's not great out there. And if you're watching me contemporaneously, as in the year 2020, I want to advise you to also wear a mask. We're in the middle of a plague. Also, the federal government has started using facial recognition software coupled along with people's social media accounts to track down dissidents that they claim are Antifa, anti-fascists, which is distasteful because Antifa isn't an actual organization, it's just anybody who doesn't like fascists. I wasn't going to be political, but, you know, these are the times we're in. And as our viewer from the year 2030 knows, this is just the start of the collapse.